On the final day of the Patissier World Tournament, the attention of the crowd was fixed on a particular contestant. This contestant was a man who harbored a dream of creating the most exquisite dessert in the world. He had dedicated years of his life honing his skills, preparing to compete in the grandest culinary competition. Guiding his team, he meticulously crafted a magnificent phoenix sculpted entirely from sugar. It seemed as though victory was within his grasp, and spectators already believed he would be crowned the champion. However, tragedy strikes as the giant phoenix topples over, crushing our hero and tragically ending his life. With his dreams of creating the world's finest pastry unfulfilled, he laments his fate. But in a moment of divine intervention, the voice of God speaks to him, offering him a second chance to share his extraordinary talents. Reborn in the sovereign territory of Molten as pastry mill Molten, our hero finds himself in a land that was once desolate but has flourished under the leadership of his father, Casserole Mill Molten, the Viscount of the Molten territory. Together, they have tirelessly worked for over 2 decades, transforming the barren fields into fertile soil capable of yielding bountiful crops. Now, the territory of Molten consists of 3 villages, each with a population of approximately 40 people. At the age of 9, Pastry is learning the art of sword fighting from his father, who pushes him to become a formidable warrior. However, Pastry's true passion lies in the creation of delectable sweets, a calling he carried from his previous life. Yet, there's a hurdle in Pastry's path. The territory of Molten lacks the ability to grow sugar, which poses a challenge for his confectionery ambitions. As he contemplates this issue, one of his subordinates, Sheets, brings him a report. The good news is that they are expecting a bountiful harvest of beans this year, thanks to Pastry's suggestion of using sparkling lime on the field, which enhanced the crop yield despite the famine plaguing the rest of the kingdom. Sheets also delivers the bad news. Neighboring regions have recently battled a group of bandits but failed to eradicate them entirely. Now, these remnants of bandits are headed towards Molten, a force of 50 strong. If they infiltrate Molten, they will plunder the precious crops and destroy the hard-earned fields. With only 30 adult men in all 3 villages combined, Pastry realizes the odds are against them. Casserole considers seeking aid from Count Rates, the nearby ruler, but Sheets cautions against it, citing the potential political consequences. If the villagers defeat the bandits that the Count couldn't, it could undermine his authority and lead to tensions between them. Sheets suspects that the Count may even prefer the bandits to ravage Molten, allowing him to swoop in afterward and claim what remains. Concerned about the threat to his dream of building a kingdom of sweets, Pastry becomes resolute in his determination to stop the bandits, no matter the cost. Impressed by his unwavering commitment, Sheets devises a plan that involves making Pastry their secret weapon. He suggests subjecting Pastry to the sanctification ceremony, a ritual that may bestow him with magical powers or other extraordinary abilities. That night, Casserole shares his decision with his wife and Pastry's mother, Agnes, expressing the gravity of the situation and the plan to make their son the key to their defense against the bandits. Agnes initially hesitates when considering the sanctification ceremony for Pastry, feeling he might be too young for such a significant event. However, Casserole assures her that Pastry's skills surpass those of other children his age, affirming his readiness. Agnes doesn't press the matter further and instead prepares to dress Pastry in the most adorable outfit she can find, even if it's traditionally meant for girls. After all, uniqueness is key. Pastry's older sister, Josephine, shares in the excitement of dressing up Pastry, as if they have their very own living and breathing doll. On the day of his departure, Pastry feels a bit exhausted from all the fussing and styling his mother and sister have done. Agnes approaches him, encouraging him to give his best, while his best friends, Mark and Lumi, are there to bid him farewell. Mark expresses a desire to dress up in fancy attire as well, but Lumi playfully dismisses the idea, claiming it wouldn't suit him. This lighthearted banter between friends momentarily takes their minds off the impending departure. Casserole instructs Sheets to take care of matters in his absence, and then utilizes teleportation magic to transport Pastry to the royal capital, an awe-inspiring display of power that astonishes Mark and Lumi. Agnes and Josephine, still clinging to the idea of Pastry wearing a dress, find themselves in playful disagreement. Upon their arrival in the capital city, Pastry's attention is immediately captivated by the array of food, particularly the sweet treats. It becomes evident that Molten lacks the necessary ingredients to create such delectable delights. Witnessing his enthusiasm, Casserole offers to buy him something special after the ceremony. Pastry finds it challenging to decide which treat to choose, as he wants to sample them all. However, his gaze fixates on the apples, sparking a sense of wonder and inspiration within him. Determined, he resolves to acquire them after the ceremony, and even suggests to his father the idea of planting apple trees. Casserole recognizes Pastry's motivation as a desire to establish a strong and prosperous territory, which fills him with joy. Meanwhile, Pastry's primary focus remains on his vision of building a candy kingdom, a land brimming with sugary delights. Together, they proceed to the church, where a renowned priest known amongst the nobles awaits. Casserole has consulted this priest previously for his daughter's sanctification ceremonies, and now it is Pastry's turn. The priest is taken aback upon learning that Pastry will undergo the sanctification ceremony at such a tender age. Meanwhile, Josephine and Sheets engage in a conversation about the significance of the ceremony and how it bestows magical abilities. Josephine shares her own experience, revealing that she was deemed to possess low magical power, leading her to forego certain aspects of the ceremony. She hopes that Pastry will exhibit a stronger magical potential. Meanwhile, Pastry finds himself bound and blindfolded, given only occasional sips of bitter water. The priest explains that magic is a hidden power residing deep within individuals, and enduring such hardships is the means to unlock it. 1.5 days pass, and Casserole grows increasingly concerned about the duration. However, the priest reassures him that more time equates to greater magical potential. Despite the reassurance, Casserole remains worried. In the midst of his confinement, Pastry's mind teems with excitement as he envisions the myriad of creations he can craft using the apples. Pies, tarts, caramelized apples, the possibilities are endless. Suddenly, a peculiar golden light envelops him from all directions, penetrating his being. Shortly afterward, Pastry awakens from the darkness, stirred by his father. Casserole congratulates him on successfully completing the ceremony, signaling the final stage, the priest's recitation from the sacred scripture, serving as both a blessing and an indicator of Pastry's magical attainment. The priest delves into lengthy passages from the scripture, and during this recitation, Pastry experiences a vision of his past life as a renowned pastry chef, as well as insights into his current reincarnated existence. Understanding dawns upon him regarding the scope of his abilities granted by this unique rebirth. Magic begins to surge within him, simultaneously manifesting through the radiant lights descending upon him. With that, the sanctification ceremony draws to a close. Both Casserole and the priest stand astounded by the magnitude of magic that has imbued Pastry. The priest remarks that Pastry has acquired more power than an average individual would possess. Casserole expresses his gratitude to the priest, compensating him for his services, and they part ways. The priest, though receiving only silver coins, expected as much from a minor lord who had gained his territory through battles. He muses that the payment is insufficient to ensure his silence. Now at the market, Casserole and Pastry peruse the offerings. Pastry takes an ample amount of time deciding between two apples. One appears heavier, while the other boasts a more vibrant hue. His perfectionism when it comes to food renders the choice difficult. Eventually, he purchases his preferred selection, and the shopkeeper even grants him additional apples due to his genuine enthusiasm. Finally, Pastry relishes the taste of apples, the fruit he had been unable to enjoy since his reincarnation. It is a truly marvelous experience, one that Casserole also savors. Pastry suggests to his father that they keep the fact that they indulged in the best pieces of the apples a secret from the others. They continue savoring their fruit, with Pastry eagerly mapping out plans for apple pies, apple tarts, and apple candies, all building towards his dream of establishing his own kingdom of sweets. On the contrary, the priest examines the coins and deems them insufficient to secure his silence. He threatens to expose Casserole's purpose for visiting the church. Meanwhile, a group of bandits wreak havoc upon a nearby village, setting it ablaze and looting its valuables. They revel in their ill-gotten gains amidst the flames, seemingly content with their actions. 3 weeks elapse, and the villagers diligently prepare for the impending assault by erecting barricades. News of the bandits' attacks reaches their ears, but Casserole and his son have already returned from the capital. It appears that the bandits are moving faster than anticipated, indicating their arrival well before the projected 2-month deadline. The landlord instructs his son to deliver a message summoning the leaders from each village under his jurisdiction for a meeting. He also requests the presence of his other 2 retainers, Cointreau and Lesage. Following the meeting, the smaller settlements evacuate their homes and converge upon the larger village, streamlining their defense efforts by concentrating their forces in one location. This strategic move also serves as a bait, enticing the bandits into a trap with their abundant food supplies, which can sustain the residents for up to 7 days if rationed carefully. Pastry oversees the preparations and realizes they are still vastly outnumbered. This disparity will become even more apparent if the battle prolongs. His self-proclaimed lieutenants, Marcarello and Luminito, join him. It is revealed that they are the children of Casserole's retainers, and they anticipate inheriting their parents' positions and supporting Pastry when he assumes the role of landlord. After discussing their plan, Pastry instructs them to gather rocks, as he has a strategy in mind. They carry out his command until dusk, when they spot the bandits approaching in the distance. Hastening back to warn everyone, they take their positions. Casserole delivers an inspiring speech to boost morale, and as they get into formation, the landlord and the head retainer embark on an aggressive reconnaissance mission. Pastry is entrusted with leadership in his father's absence. Casserole informs his son that they will strike the bandits fiercely and then retreat, luring them through the northern entrance. Just as his father turns away, Pastry orders Marcarello to inform Cointreau at the western canal that they will employ flame arrows as a signal for the enemy's arrival. Luminito is tasked with notifying Lesage to prepare these fiery projectiles. The arrows are to be unleashed at the faintest sound of hoofbeats. After the landlord departs, Pastry plans to utilize the children's proficiency in launching rocks with catapults to their advantage. They form a unit and await orders, but if danger draws too near, their escape to safety is paramount. Pastry's sister consoles some distressed girls amidst the chaos. Meanwhile, Casserole and his trusted companion approach the bandits, using magic to gain a clear view of their positions before launching their surprise attack. Chaos ensues, and they swiftly withdraw after inflicting damage. The bandit leader attempts to order his men to stand down, but their heated fervor compels them to pursue their assailants. Glossage, upon hearing the hoofbeats, signals for the volley of arrows to be released, aiding Casserole and his companion in finding their bearings and leading the bandits into the trap. A hail of arrows and rocks rains upon the bandits, further disorienting them. This tactic proves effective until the bandit leader scales the village wall and initiates an assault. This disruption in the volley grants his men an opportunity to climb after him. The children valiantly hold their ground, continuously hurling rocks at the leader. In a moment of desperation, the leader targets the children, but Pastry intervenes and takes the blow. However, he unleashes his magic for the first time by projecting the pain and damage inflicted upon one bandit to all those standing in the compound. The bandits collapse in agony, creating an opening for Marcarello to knock out the bandit leader with a well-aimed rock as Pastry watches with a mix of relief and awe. After the battle, the field is scattered with discarded weapons and broken barricades. A villager approaches Pastry's mother with good news: they have captured some bandits. Worried about her husband and son, she asks about their safety. Her husband assures her that Casserole is fine, but Pastry got hurt in the arm. Concerned, the mother falls to the ground, but her daughter comforts her, saying it's just a minor scratch, which the villager confirms. Although relieved, Pastry's sister wonders where their father and brother are, knowing their mother tends to worry. Meanwhile, Pastry points out the extra food supplies for the smaller settlements, as they handle the logistics. The rest of the villagers escort the bandits to a temporary prison. Thalia is curious about what Casserole plans to do with the captured criminals. She suggests shipping them to the county of Reese as the best option, allowing the leadership in Regis to take credit and save face. The head retainer also wonders about the rewards they can expect in return for their service. Casserole acknowledges the need to evaluate the situation but insists on at least receiving compensation for campaign expenses and the losses suffered while protecting the other two villages. With the bandits safely detained, Casserole organizes a ceremony to honor the villagers' bravery. Marcarello and Luminito are called forward and given swords and bags of barley as a token of appreciation for their exceptional assistance to Pastry throughout the ordeal. Marcarello feels a bit shy about the praise since he's more accustomed to being scolded for his behavior. Pastry eagerly helps his friends carry their rewards, taking them to Marcarello's home. His mother is overjoyed to see her son safe, and his younger siblings are impressed by his achievements. She hopes Marcarello didn't cause unnecessary trouble for Pastry, but he remarks on how bravely they all fought and how vital his friends will be for Morton's future. Next, they visit Luminito's home, where her grandfather beams with pride at her confidence despite her young age. The other villagers join in the celebration, bringing drinks and food. The festivities begin, and even the children participate, drinking milk to feel included. The adults repeatedly praise the children's ambush and how it turned the tide of the battle. Lost in thoughts of creating delicious sweets, Pastry decides to start with an apple pie, already planning the recipe in his mind. This gives Marcarello and Luminito a chance to slip away. Luminito admires her sword while Marcarello tries to impress her by asking about the bandits' motives. He receives an answer, learning that they are currently held in the main village shed. Intrigued, they plan to investigate, understanding their future roles as Pastry's retainers. However, the prison guards at the entrance refuse them entry, citing safety concerns for children. Marcarello signals Luminito to join him in the bushes nearby. With a clever plan involving throwing stones at a log storage behind the shed, they successfully divert the attention of the guards, creating an opportunity for them to enter. Carefully, they inspect the prisoners, but their confidence wavers when faced with the intimidating gaze of the bandit leader. Despite their attempt to show bravery, fear still lingers within them. The leader notices the sword Marcarello carries and asks about its origin. Marcarello explains that it was a reward, unaware that the sword once belonged to the bandit leader himself. The leader, accepting his fate, expresses a desire to teach Marcarello swordsmanship and even magic. Intrigued by the idea of becoming like Pastry and possessing magical abilities, Marcarello is captivated. However, Luminito senses something wrong and advises Marcarello against listening. Unfortunately, Marcarello has already been enchanted by the leader's words and falls into the trap, disarming himself when drawn closer. Exploiting this moment, the bandit leader frees himself and attacks Luminito, causing a wound on her torso. By the time the guards return, the leader has taken Marcarello hostage, while Luminito remains unconscious on the ground. A concerned villager witnesses the distressing scene and quickly informs the others about the gravity of the situation. At the shed, the bandit leader finds himself surrounded by more villagers. However, he cleverly uses Marcarello as a shield to secure a horse and escape, leaving his comrades behind. Soon after, Pastry arrives and immediately attends to Luminito's injury. The guards inform Pastry that the bandit leader has fled with Marcarello. Determined to pursue them, Pastry hopes that the traps they set along the escape route are still in place. He plans his attack, intending to retaliate and redirect any harm he receives back onto the criminal. In the worst-case scenario, he aims to force a stalemate. Suddenly, a realization dawns on Pastry regarding his ability to replicate what he witnesses, prompting him to consider its further application. Back in the village, news of the incident reaches Casserole and Thalia, who express disappointment in the guard's failure to apprehend the boy. Casserole instructs the head retainer to accompany him in intercepting the bandit leader before he reaches potential allies for regrouping. Fully suggests that Casserole goes alone to allow him to prepare and maintain morale within the village. Meanwhile, the bandit leader's progress is impeded as he falls into one of the traps set by the villagers. This fortunate turn of events allows Pastry to catch up. The leader recognizes Pastry and assumes he is responsible for the trap. Surprising the bandit, Pastry draws his sword, leading to a duel between them. Pastry initiates an attack, but the criminal withstands it, acknowledging Pastry's impressive skills despite his young age. However, the bandit's superior physical strength sends Pastry flying backward. Undeterred, Pastry regains his composure and continues his assault. Determined to eliminate Pastry with a single decisive blow to prevent him from replicating injuries, the bandit leader forcefully pushes Pastry back. Witnessing this, Marcarello pleads with Pastry to flee, believing that his own life is not worth risking. However, Pastry firmly refuses, reminding Marcarello of their strong bond as lieutenant and leader. Sarcastically remarking on their friendship, the bandit leader launches a powerful attack. Pastry manages to block it, but his blade shatters, leaving him vulnerable to a subsequent strike. Without hesitation, the bandit leader seizes the opportunity to deliver a blow. Meanwhile, Fi uses his scouting magic to search for Pastry and Marcarello but finds no sign of them. Growing increasingly anxious, he shouts in the hopes of receiving a response. Eventually, he discovers horse tracks, indicating that they are getting closer. A look of dread washes over Fi as he spots Pastry's broken sword. They continue their search until dusk, yet find no trace of the missing boy. Fi returns with the shattered sword in hand, contemplating how to deliver the heartbreaking news to Casserole. The leader of the guards opens the door and is surprised to see Pastry unharmed, resting peacefully in his mother's arms. Casserole informs the leader that Pastry returned with Marcarello not too long ago. Pastry's mother refuses to let go of him and has fallen asleep while holding her son. Although Casserole is puzzled about how they passed by without notice, he asks Pastry to explain. At first, Pastry avoids giving details, but when pressed, he admits that he replicated his father's teleportation magic on himself to escape the bandit's fatal blow. Pastry explains that his magic allows him to copy anything, including other people's magic spells, onto another object. Confirming Casserole's suspicions, Pastry's revelation leads his father to forbid him from revealing his ability to others and establishes a rule against using other people's magic in front of anyone. Casserole scolds Pastry, cautioning him about the dangers of using unfamiliar spells. Pastry had anticipated this reaction, which is why he was hesitant to share his secret. Later that night, Casserole and Fi discuss the potential consequences if news of Pastry's unique power spreads. They worry that some people might try to exploit him as a weapon and regret not capturing the bandit leader earlier. Casserole hopes that the bandit leader will be dealt with before he has a chance to expose Pastry's secret. The next day, Pastry joins Marcarello in preparing marinades and is reprimanded for causing Luminito's injuries. Pastry assures Marcarello that Luminito will recover and suggests they visit her to apologize. When they arrive, Luminito is in good spirits and happy to see her friends. Pastry excuses himself to the kitchen to bake an apple pie, while Marcarello offers a formal apology to Luminito. The enticing aroma catches their attention, and soon Pastry returns with the freshly baked pie. They are amazed by its appearance and comment on how delicious it looks. Pastry explains that he made the pie to uplift Luminito's spirits. Excitedly, they taste the pie and are delighted by its incredible flavor. Pastry also shares some fresh apples soaked in honey, educating them about the different apple varieties and their tastes. Pastry advises Marcarello to learn from his mistake and work hard to improve, assuring him that he will always find ways to use his unique skills. Their conversation is interrupted when Glossage enters the room, pretending to be angry about Marcarello causing harm to his daughter. However, Glossage quickly changes his tone and suggests that Marcarello can make amends by marrying his daughter. Luminito overhears and doesn't object, surprising Marcarello. Luminito then offers Glossage a slice of the pie, and he compliments its deliciousness. They all sit together, enjoying more pie, and these joyful moments reinforce Pastry's determination to create his land of sweets. A month had passed since the bandit incident, but another problem arose. Casserole and Fuel approached Pass, informing him that they were broke. Initially, Fuel didn't pay much attention, knowing Casserole's tendency to claim they were broke. However, Pass was concerned and wanted to help solve the situation. Casserole explained that they had to shut down 2 villages due to the bandit attack. Now they needed to rebuild the houses and dig out the wells. Moreover, they had to provide provisions for all the villagers, and the fields needed repair. But they had no money for all these expenses. They were supposed to get 200 gold pieces as a reward for capturing the bandit leader, but Mark's blunder with Derober ruined that opportunity. Casserole thought about borrowing money from another noble, but they were unwilling to lend anything. Nearby lands were damaged during the winter, and the bandits' attack added to the woes. Casserole also considered seeking financial aid from the court nobles in the capital, but their interest rates were exorbitant. Pass asked if they could ask his grandparents for help, but Casserole revealed that Pass's parents had cut ties with their families 15 years ago. As a result, Pass's grandparents were unaware of his existence, making it impossible to seek their assistance. Moreover, when Pass wanted to marry Casserole, his family was against it due to their poor lands, leading them to run away. Feeling overwhelmed, Casserole decided to call it a day, realizing that overthinking wouldn't solve anything. Pass returned to his friends and shared the situation with them. Mark advised him not to hide anything from them, as they could also provide help and support. Trying to change the topic, Pass inquired about Lumi's recovery. She mentioned that she could already go out but still experience some pain. Mark suggested expanding their fields to cultivate more, but they lacked the time, manpower, and funds to do so. Lumi mentioned that Pass could sell his sweets in the city, but he couldn't afford the production costs. Mark playfully suggests that Pass should teach magic, thinking it could make him rich. Lumi teases Mark, saying if he uses magic he might set himself on fire since he's clumsy. Pass joins the fun, calling their argument flirting, and Lumi suggests magic might be their solution. She proposes that Pass shows them his magic to spark ideas. Remembering his past life, where he discussed new sweet ideas with colleagues, Pass decides to give it a try. He asks Mark and Lumi to draw something on the ground. Mark draws himself defeating a dragon with magic, while Lumi draws a playful Blanca. Using his magic, Pass copies the images into their hands. Lumi tries to rub it off, but Pass explains it's permanent on trees or walls and fades in 3 days on skin. Curious, Lumi wonders if Pass can do the opposite, copy something else as a drawing. Pass is puzzled at first, but Lumi clarifies, suggesting it'd be cool if he could project images of houses or faces on the ground. Mark dismisses the idea, but Pass realizes Lumi's given him the answer he was seeking. He calls her a genius, making her blush. Pass gets shy and apologizes, then goes to meet his father. Meanwhile, Casserole discusses their situation with Fuel and his wife. They consider asking for money from her parents but aren't sure. Suddenly, Pass storms in with a plan. He asks his father if he remembers trying to arrange a marriage for Josie, Pass's 13-year-old sister. Pass explains that his father can introduce Josie to other nobles using his teleportation magic. Some nobles can't use magic and must attend a costly and dangerous royal ball in the capital. Pass proposes they sell matchmaking photos. To illustrate, he uses his magic to create a detailed portrait of his mother on wood. Casserole and Fuel are amazed by its precision, and his mother feels like she's looking into a mirror. Pass's goal is to use his magic to create pictures of nobles seeking a marriage partner. Casserole sees this as a perfect opportunity and suggests they can charge 5 to 10 gold pieces per picture, or even more, as some parents won't mind spending to introduce their children this way. However, Fuel raises the concern that exposing Pass's magic might be risky. Pass explains that they can't hide it forever, and doing this will make people think his magic is only for making pictures. To test the idea, Casserole decides to approach Count Retest since he plans to discuss the bandit situation with her anyway. They arrive at Retestvale City and request a meeting with Count Retest. From the window, she wonders if they want to blame her for not handling the bandits properly. Casserole intends to praise her achievements and then talk about the pictures. Inside, they meet Count Brios Retest, and Pass recalls his father briefly introducing her as the eldest daughter of the previous count. Her father died in battle, and she assumed authority until the rightful heir came of age. However, that heir also died mysteriously before reaching adulthood. Casserole pays his respects to Brios, who remarks on Pass's charming appearance. Pass approaches her but notices she's carefully observing their behavior. She invites them for tea, and Pass's attention is immediately drawn to the cookies. She explains that they're a specialty of her land and prepared with the best tea. While Casserole politely praises her tea's aroma and flavor, Pass finds the cookies to taste horrible. Brios is puzzled since most kids love any kind of sweet. Pass takes a sip of the tea, yet it disappoints him too. Casserole continues to be polite and praises Brios for excelling in both military and agricultural matters on her land. She expresses her desire to learn his secrets and knowledge, not realizing that many changes were actually thanks to Pass's advice. Casserole drops the bomb by revealing that most of the land's improvements were due to Pass's insights. Brios, understandably, finds it hard to believe that a child not even 10 years old could oversee the cultivation of a wasteland. She praises Pass, thinking he must be proud to have such an amazing father. Casserole and Pass have been eagerly anticipating this moment, their hearts pounding with excitement and determination. As Brios engages in conversation with Pass, he senses the perfect opportunity to unveil his master plan. With a mischievous glint in his eye, he starts by expressing genuine pride in his father's accomplishments. But then, like a crafty strategist, he skillfully introduces a bold lie that his father's land was raided by several hundred bandits. This audacious move is aimed at gaining an advantage in the impending negotiations. Brios, taken aback by this unexpected revelation from a mere 9-year-old, struggles to maintain her composure. She silently berates herself for allowing a child to delve into such serious matters. Yet, she cannot deny the cleverness and bravery of Pass's tactic. Undeterred, Pass presses on, continuing his offensive. He divulges that the captured bandits spilled the beans, revealing their origins in Retest Vale. He tantalizes Brios by hinting at the possibility of delivering a few bandits for her interrogation, subtly implying the potential involvement of the royal family in an official investigation. Brios tries to counter his claims with a display of bravado, boasting about their triumph against a formidable bandit group. She suggests that perhaps some survivors fled to Casserole's land. However, Pass skillfully recalls Fuel's initial report, recounting the bandits' brutal assault on Retest Vale before turning their sights to Casserole's territory. Intrigued and determined not to be outmaneuvered, Pass then throws a daring question into the mix: who exactly fought against the bandits if they were not involved? Brios, fueled by her pride, hesitates to admit defeat and boldly challenges Pass to provide proof for his claims. In a pivotal moment of the negotiation, Casserole steps up, revealing a sword emblazoned with the Retest family crest, incontrovertible evidence that the bandits indeed originated from Retest Vale. Brios is left in a state of realization, knowing that her claims of vanquishing the bandits were, in fact, false. Pass tells Brios that Retest Vale's failure to deal with the bandits caused damage to Casserole's lands. Even though they don't want trouble, Pass insists they should be compensated. Brios offers 100 gold pieces, but Pass says it's not enough to cover all the losses. Brios is impressed by Pass's maturity and negotiation skills, so she raises the offer to 130 gold pieces. Pass stays firm and rejects it, leading Brios to increase the offer to 150 gold pieces. Though surprised to be outmaneuvered by a child, she agrees, realizing Pass is exceptional. After signing the contract, Brios acknowledges the positive impact Pass had on Casserole's land, giving him credit for its prosperity. She admits underestimating him due to his age and the compensation amount. However, she knows it's a small price to pay to avoid losing the king's trust. Brios then brings up Pass's reaction to the tea and cookies during their meeting. Curious, she asks if something was wrong. Pass diplomatically suggests that the treats were too sweet and proposes adding something less sugary to complement the tea. Before Pass can explain further, Casserole playfully stops him and signals it's time to leave. Pass apologizes for not bringing a proper gift but uses his magic to create a portrait of Brios on a piece of cloth. She's amazed and grateful for the thoughtful gift. As they bid farewell, Pass and Casserole feel proud of their successful negotiations and the respect they earned from Brios. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe our channel, Annie Explainer.